Last week, Doomcock got into a bit of a kerfuffle with another channel. This was one of the first channels Doomcock used to watch on YouTube before Doomcock launched his own channel. They are experts on Star Trek and share Doomcock's deep abiding passion for Star Trek in a most admirable way. Alas, shortly before I was driven by madness, alcohol, and the rage of 10 billion exploding galaxies chock full of TNT to record my first diatribe against Star Trek Discovery 8 months ago, I stopped watching this great channel for one reason. I was angered that they were discussing Star Trek Discovery as a viable entry in the Star Trek universe. They discussed it as if it were worthy of consideration, as if Star Trek Discovery resembled in any way, shape, or form the glorious creation of Gene Roddenberry, who launched his search for intelligent life in the TV audience on September 8, 1966. Roddenberry believed there was room on television for an intelligent, optimistic, rationalistic, humanistic vision of the future, that there were enough discerning and brilliant people in the Nielsen-verse to support Star Trek, and he was right. Despite the myth that Star Trek was consistently plagued with low ratings, the truth of the matter has been revealed since. Even without any ad support from NBC, who seemingly did their best to conceal Star Trek like a deformed homicidal twin growing out of its side, Star Trek consistently ranked a close number 2 in the ratings, occasionally hitting number 1. It was generally NBC's number 1 rated show on the night it aired, and in terms of demographics, a new metric at the time, it was in the top 5 of all shows on television in the 18 to 35 demographic. By any sane reckoning, Roddenberry's faith in the viewing audience was more than justified. There was an audience for Star Trek. Given a little support from NBC, it would have blasted off like my head wanted to do when I first saw the abomination that is Star Trek Discovery. To say that Star Trek Discovery is not Star Trek is a gross understatement. Star Trek Discovery is a hideous distortion of everything that Star Trek stood for. Where Star Trek was optimistic, Star Trek Discovery is hateful. Where Star Trek was colorful, intelligent, and exciting, STD is dim, dumb, and dull, a drab dystopia for dipshits that I cannot abide and will not accept. And so, I stopped watching this otherwise excellent YouTube channel because I could not accept any discussion that attempts to legitimize, to normalize, to sanitize Star Trek Discovery as anything but the vile shit that it is. To discuss STD as anything but a grievous insult, incompatible with Star Trek, indeed fatal to Star Trek, is to accept it, to normalize it, to give it credibility and credence, to give comfort to the enemy. It's like doing a news report about an asshole that claims he swims with mermaids. By taking time to seriously debate his claim, you're acting as if mermaids aren't bullshit. Then some idiot kids with soft spots in their skulls susceptible to such nonsense grow up thinking mermaids are actually reasonable things to believe in. And they become adults who lack critical thinking skills, and they wind up writing about space whales for STD, presumably in their own poop. Do you see the causal chain here? You get enough soft-headed kids out there who believe in mermaids, you get a population of imbeciles who don't know shit from Shinola, and bingo! Star Trek is dead because everyone is watching Poop Trek. Now, with 100% more space whales, sonar in space, and teleportation using spores in outer space. Never minding that no such drive exists in Star Trek prior to STD, meaning no spore drives exist in Star Trek because STD is not Star Trek. Doomcock cannot discuss STD as anything but a grotesque distortion of Star Trek. There can be no compromise in this regard. Not to spare the feelings of Trekkies, not to go along to get along, not to appear objective, not if you love Star Trek. Doomcock cannot retreat from his absolute position that STD is an abomination because to do so, to be diplomatic, to go along, to get along, is akin to giving a patient painkillers while the disease devours them from within. It is irreconcilable to say Spock had a human stepsister all along and that Sarek loved her so dearly while shunning Spock so completely. It is irreconcilable to say the Federation had a magic teleportation spore drive when every single Star Trek series would have been completely altered by that invention. Distance was always an issue in Star Trek, hence the fucking title. A trek among the stars is a journey of great distance. In Balance of Terror, the whole point of the story was that the Enterprise was too far out at the Romulan border to discuss the Romulans breaking the treaty and invading Federation space. Kirk was forced to make a decision without the benefit of aid from Starfleet, because even subspace communication would not be fast enough to ask Starfleet for orders, to consult for guidance. But with a spore drive, Kirk could have popped back to Starfleet instantly, had a Saurian brandy with Admiral Nagura, and popped back in time to destroy the Romulan before dinner. Same thing with Deep Space Nine. Why even bother to have a base on the fringe of Federation space? What does a fringe of space even mean when you can just teleport wherever you want to go? There are no supply lines, no forward base needed when forward is an outmoded concept. You don't need a friendly port. Earth is your friendly port, and home is only a sprinkle of pixie dust away. And Voyager, forget that shit. No matter how far you go, there you are, just a block away from home. Do you see how antithetical this is to Star Trek? You can't boldly go with pixie dust, because pixie dust can bring your ass back home just as fast as it got you there. Do you boldly go into your own backyard? Only if you have a rabid badger out there seeking revenge. Don't piss off rabid badgers, people. It never ends well. But I digress. As you can see, it violates the mind, the heart, the very spirit of Star Trek to embrace this violent, ugly, nonsensical pessimism of STD as canon. You cannot do that and have Star Trek matter. Star Trek Discovery is a hideous and divisive thing. In the Civil War, brother was turned against brother over one vital issue. While Star Trek is less of a vital issue than slavery, in a similar way, STD has sundered the Star Trek community, turning fan against fan, sister against brother. Some, like Doomcock, speak out fiercely, recognizing that the very soul of Star Trek is at stake. Others, for the sake of comedy or compassion, of a misguided sense of fairness and objectivity, hold their tongues and discuss STD in reasonable tones of voice. I leave it to you to decide which approach is best for the health of the body, but Doomcock has made his choice. To the last, regardless of hurt feelings, of politics, of kindness or courtesy, Doomcock condemns STD as a vile contagion fatal to Star Trek because to do less is to let the infection take root. The idiots at CBS and the cretins who write this shit are lazy. You have to be lazy to come up with sonar in space? Lazy or brain damaged? Trust me, it's not as if we can be patient with STD, be good sports about it and wait for something better to come along. If we accept this garbage, that's all we're ever going to get. They won't change course. The soft-headed FANDOM will be recruited. They'll grow into space whales and spores like dogs grow into eating their own poop, and that will be that for Roddenberry's search for intelligent life in the audience. We accept STD, and the infection takes root, not only in Star Trek, which it has already killed, but in other franchises that might yet be saved from this corporate movement to obliterate our culture, to rebrand our modern myths so they can sell us a bunch of new shit. Our treasured cultural heritage is under assault, my friends. Violations of canon call our memories lies. Violations of canon are attacks on our very minds, calling into question our cognition, our internalized views of these worlds. This is why Doomcock cannot retreat or compromise, not only for Star Trek, but for Star Wars, and Ghostbusters, and Thundercats, and Doctor Who, and for all the other franchises being revised into irrelevance by corporations who just want to keep coming up with new shit to sell, even if it means plowing the old properties into the ground. Those of you out there who think, I don't care about this, I'm not much of a Star Trek fan. The same is happening to Star Wars, to comics, to television reboots. I'm reminded of the old analogy. When they came for Star Trek, I said nothing, for I was not a Star Trek fan. When they came for Star Wars, I said nothing, for I was not a Star Wars fan. And then they came for my favorite franchise, and there was no one left to save me. Well, Doomcock is here, now, trying to save you. Sometimes Doomcock must ruffle feathers, must cause kerfuffles, must irritate and provoke in order to take his stand. And he regrets greatly that the vile STD contagion has created this civil war within the fandom, dividing natural allies who feel that compromise and compassion are their duty. The channel I inadvertently slighted is a good channel. A channel wise in the ways of Star Trek, created by smart fans who know their stuff. But STD has divided us, and I gaze at my brothers on the opposite shore, and I invite them to join me, even as I lament that I cannot join them. And now, my friends, I'd like to share some news with you all. I want to thank all of you out there on YouTube who comment on my videos. Doomcock cannot tell you what a great pleasure it is to read all your comments. I do my very best to read all the comments and to respond to as many of them as possible, but I physically find myself unable to do so. There are so many comments that responding to them is giving Doomcock strain in his wrists. No shit, it's literally true. Typing this much is for lesser mortals, and so I announce here that I will be doing my channel's first live stream today, July the 12th at 3:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, discussing this video in the desecration of Star Wars. And in addition to live comments, if I'm not too slammed, I will be reading comments to this video live on the air and responding to them. That is, if I'm not too slammed. But I vow to you this, from this day forward, my friends, I'm going to be doing specific videos addressing your YouTube comments, reading them and responding on the air, mainly to save my wrists from all the typing, but also to get to as many comments as I can. Now, this being my first solo live stream, please bear with Doomcock. I'm not skilled at handling live chat yet, so if it gets crowded, Doomcock may get overwhelmed like Mickey Mouse in The Sorcerer's Apprentice, but Doomcock vows to do the best he can. And in the meantime, to anyone who has ever posted anything that I haven't gotten back to on YouTube, Doomcock sincerely apologizes. But I think replying to your comments not by typing, but by speaking in future videos dedicated to that purpose will guarantee I get to more comments in a faster fashion. My way of saying thank you for your comments. Please keep them coming. They mean a lot to Doomcock. And thus ends my diatribe against accepting STD as Star Trek. So long as STD exists and Star Wars is under assault, it will be no great challenge to stay angry.